The year is 1888. London, the sprawling heart of the British Empire, is a city of stark contrasts. Immense wealth lives side by side with crushing poverty. In the East End, Whitechapel is a world unto itself, a labyrinth of narrow streets and unlit alleyways, slick with rain and grime. Smoke from countless coal fires, stench from the tanneries and slaughterhouses. Gas lamps flicker weakly, carving deep pockets of darkness where anyone might hide. Survival here is a daily struggle, a desperate, precarious existence for thousands. Into this grim theatre, a terrifying presence was about to emerge. Whitechapel's cobbles would become a hunting ground. Shadows danced along brick walls and seemed to take on a life of their own. For residents, especially women at night, the world was shrinking. Every corner turned was a gamble, every approaching footstep a threat. The environment was a predator's ally. As the autumn of 1888 deepened, a palpable terror began to grip the heart of Whitechapel. It was no longer a vague sense of unease, but a specific, nameable dread. The newspapers, with their sensational headlines and graphic reports, gave the killer a name that would echo through history. Jack the Ripper. This was not a common criminal. This was a phantom, a faceless entity who moved through the city like a ghost. He left behind a trail of unimaginable violence, but offered no clue as to his identity. The fear he inspired was unique. It was the fear of the unknown, of a monster who looked just like any other man on the street. The name itself, Jack the Ripper, likely originated from a letter sent to the Central News Agency, taunting the police. Whether written by the killer or a clever hoaxer, the moniker stuck, capturing the public's imagination. It gave a persona to the horror, turning the anonymous murderer into a folkloric villain. He was no longer just a man, but a symbol of the darkness lurking beneath the veneer of Victorian society. People whispered the name in public houses and behind closed doors. Children were frightened with tales of his deeds. The victims of Jack the Ripper were women who lived on the absolute margins of society. They were the forgotten, the invisible, struggling with poverty. Was Mary Ann Polly Nichols. She was found on August 31st, 1888 in Bucks Row. Her death marked the beginning of a terrifying pattern of violence. The body of Annie Chapman was discovered in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street. The brutality of the murder was more severe, and the killer had taken trophies from her body. The terror reached its zenith on the night of September 30th, the double event. Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes. They were murdered within the same hour in locations not far from each other. The final canonical victim was Mary Jane Kelly. Discovered on the morning of November 9th in her small room at 13 Miller's Court, Mary Jane was murdered in the relative privacy of her own lodgings. After this, the murders abruptly stopped. In the face of this unprecedented terror, the London Metropolitan Police, the City of London Police, launched one of the largest manhunts in history. Hundreds of officers were deployed to patrol the labyrinthine streets of Whitechapel. They conducted house-to-house inquiries. They interviewed thousands of people. They followed up on every conceivable lead. Detectives from Scotland Yard. The investigation was hampered by a media frenzy. Newspapers, hungry for sensational stories, published lurid details and wild theories. That created mass hysteria, leading to a flood of letters to police and press, many claiming to be from the killer himself. The Dear Boss letter, the saucy Jackie postcard, the From Hell letter, with a piece of a human kidney. Vigilance committees formed in the East End offered rewards for information and put pressure on the authorities, and the hunter vanished. The autumn of terror eventually passed, and the Jack the Ripper murders ceased as suddenly as they had begun. But the killer was never caught. The case remained officially unsolved. His phantom-like ability to evade capture had ensured his immortality, not remembered as a man of flesh and blood, but as an archetype of evil, a shadowy figure of the human psyche. Over decades, the story became part of popular culture. Countless books, amateur investigators, professional investigators known as ripperologists continue to sift archives, searching for one clue to solve the puzzle. Jack the Ripper has not been definitively identified, though historian Russell Edwards claimed in early 2025 that he identified the killer as Aaron Kosminski, a 23-year-old Polish immigrant, based on a mitochondrial DNA match to a shawl found at a murder scene. However, this claim is contentious, as DNA experts have stated that mitochondrial DNA can only exclude suspects, not provide individual identification. While Kosminski was a suspect during the original investigation and had relevant traits, this DNA evidence is considered insufficient by many to officially name him the killer. Jewish-Polish immigrant Aaron Kosminski was a suspect in the original Ripper investigation. He had a history of mental illness, specifically paranoid schizophrenia, and was institutionalized in a mental hospital. Kosminski was recorded as having a hatred for women, especially prostitutes, and was known to have homicidal tendencies. Kosminski died in a mental institution in 1919.